David Lynch's 2001 film Mulholland Drive revolves around the concept of dreams. The Winkie's diner scene is one which lingers upon viewing the film. It is seemingly disconnected from the film's overall narrative other than its thematic occupation with dreams, but strikes a strong feeling of terror in its viewers. The scene is about a dream, but I will be analysing how the sound design contributes to a narrative that builds up dread. The sound design is key to the scene's success in its building of fear, as the visuals cannot work alone, utilising Angelo Badalamenti's synthesised score and ever-present droning, eerie silence and sound effects which connote danger. The scene begins with a shot of the diner's signage, Winkie's. It is an establishing shot visually, and there is an establishing sound accompanying this, a siren. This is a culturally familiar sound signifying the presence of emergency services, perhaps the police or an ambulance. Either way, this sound sets the tone of the scene to come. The sound of a siren notifies an audience of the presence of danger. It suggests urgency and is piercing. Lynch's decision, acting as sound designer for his film, is one which immediately and intentionally lures the audience into a tense mindset. The presence of the siren as the diner's signage is represented tells us that Winkie's is not an ordinary diner. It tells us that something bad is going to happen here. The connotation of danger is intrinsically tied to the location, setting a viewer on edge, as a diner is not synonymous with danger. The siren fades into the background as Dan and Herb's conversation begins.
I just wanted to come here.
To Winkie's?
This Winkie's.
The two men are seated, and Dan is setting up a conversation, one that will lead to the discussion of his dream. There is faint ambience, a whooshing of wind and cars passing by, combining to create a faint rumbling.
Okay. Why this Winkie's?
It's kind of embarrassing.
The ambience is almost unnoticeable. However, as the conversation progresses, it becomes apparent that the ambience is lacking. Dan and Herb are in a busy diner, their table surrounded by others just like it, with multiple people seated at each table. They move but are not audible. We cannot hear them speak. There is no noise coming from them, aside from the occasional scraping of cutlery. This is an unnatural silence, building upon the introductory siren and the chilling contents of Dan's dream, and contributing to the overall feeling of unease that the scene instills. Dan and Herb's voices stand out in this silence. Their words seem louder, as if the contents of their conversation are so significant that they command attention. This technique sets the stage for Dan to describe his dream, a dream which is, alone, terrifying, but the sound design has built up an anticipation and created an inescapable sense of unease that is heightened as the scene progresses. We are expecting something truly frightening from this retelling of a dream, and Dan delivers.
Go ahead.
I had a dream about this place.
Oh, boy.
See what I mean?
Okay. So you had a dream about this place. Tell me.
Well, it's the second one I've had, but they're both the same. They start out that I'm in here, but it's not day or night. It's kind of half night, you know? But it looks just like this, except for the light.
Badalamenti's score, a piece of music appropriately titled Diner, fades in just as Dan begins to describe the dream. The quiet winds and rumbling ambience blend with a score that uses similar motifs. A key feature from this point is the presence of a low-frequency droning sound that has been incorporated into the score. Droning is a staple of horror films and thrillers and is used with the purpose of curating a discomfort in the audience. The droning sound remains for a significant amount of time and builds tension and anxiety. In this scene, the droning begins quietly and gradually becomes louder as Dan recounts his dream. This staple feature of horror is utilised in this scene to elicit a fear reaction and to build dread. As Dan says,
And I'm scared like I can't tell you.
the droning becomes louder and the synthesised score begins to truly invade our ears. Badalamenti's piece of music is quite simple, barely straying from its basic droning, but instead it is built upon and heightened in certain moments to maintain the feeling of dread and unease, preparing for the scene's climax.
Of all people, you're standing right over there. By that counter. You're in both dreams. And you're scared. I get even more frightened when I see how afraid you are, and then I realize what it is. There's a man in back of this place. He's the one who's doing it. I can see him through the wall. I can see his face.
As Dan says, there's a man in back of this place. A whirring fan-like effect is introduced to the soundtrack, building upon the droning, and the sound remains duller as the scene progresses.
I hope that I never see that face ever outside of a dream. That's it.
So, you came to see if he's out there.
To get rid of this god-awful feeling.
Right then.
Herb goes to pay, and a look of realization dawns on Dan's face. Herb is standing exactly where he did in Dan's dream, just as Dan had described it. The music becomes stronger and spikes as Dan looks over to see the recreation of his dream, conveying the feeling of dread and terror in Dan to the audience. This build in momentum signals that this is a bad sign, curating an atmosphere of terror. If this element of Dan's dream can come into fruition, will the other features come to be too? This sound design evokes anticipation and plants the seeds of fear that remain until the climax of the scene. It is the use of the music and the manipulation using sound design at this moment that propels the narrative forward, connecting the hypothetical presence of the man behind the diner with reality. As the diner door opens, the noises from outside flood in, with cars passing by. It is a relief to hear a natural sound effect intrude upon the droning, synthesized score. But from here, Badalamenti's piece of music picks up, becoming more anticipatory, more fear-inducing. The droning is still present, but now it sounds like it is drilling into our ears. Its low frequency is strong and overwhelming. It's around here. strong wind-like presence, and the scene ends. It is not the visual image of the bum that shocks us. It is the sound. The sound design has put us on edge from the beginning of the scene, telling us to be prepared for something to happen, and it is the sudden strength of the sound as the bum is revealed that scares us. It is the sound design in this scene that builds up the suspense, dread, and unease. Utilising motifs such as the introduction of the setting with the sound of a siren, tiring the location with the idea of danger, along with the constant droning of Badalamenti's synthesized score and its gradual build-up of volume and intensity before culminating in the reveal of the bum, contributes to a narrative of fear, terror, and dread. Unease is created in combining all these eerie elements gradually to maximise the impact of the jump scare. The sound design tells the audience how they should be feeling, and that feeling is fear. The sound curates an experience that attacks the very nature of humanity and their innate response to the threats of danger. The sound is one of the most important elements in this scene, and as Lynch describes sound as being 50% of the picture, it is unsurprising that sound has been utilised to the scene's advantage. This scene would not be as effective in its building of dread and fear if there had been no sound manipulation whatsoever.